I speak to you now, not as a name etched in the brittle scrolls of history, but as a man Hostilian, son of Decius, younger heir to a troubled world. Mine is a tale of promise, shadowed by tragedy, of ascension marred by brevity, of dreams cut short by the unrelenting scythe of fate. Let me unmask myself to you, for I have been rendered silent far too long. I was born in the year 230 CE in the sunlit province of Pannonia, a land of rolling plains and military camps, where the pulse of Rome's legions beat strongest. My father, Decius, a stern yet principled man, carried the weight of the empire upon his shoulders long before he claimed its diadem. My mother, Herennia et Drusilla, was my sanctuary, a woman of intellect and quiet resilience, a sharp contrast to the martial vigour that defined my father. Childhood, however fleeting, was a tapestry of learning and longing. My older brother, Herennius Etruscus, was the golden child, groomed for command from the moment he could lift a sword. I, on the other hand, was the quieter one, drawn to the whispers of parchment and the call of philosophy. Tutors from Greece and Egypt filled my days with lessons on rhetoric, history, and the stars. A world far removed from the legion's cries that echoed outside our villa. Yet even then, the shadow of expectation loomed large. I was a prince of Rome, and Rome demanded much. Still, there was love within our family, albeit one shadowed by duty. My brother's laughter echoed through the halls, but so too did my father's stern admonitions. "A prince must be more than a son," Decius often said, his voice heavy with the weight of his ambitions. My mother would offer her subtle consolations, but even she could not shield me from the inevitabilities of our station. It was a childhood framed by the paradox of privilege and pressure, joy and foreboding. As I reflect now, I realise how those early years shaped the man I became, but they also planted the seeds of the tragedy to come. For who could foresee the storms that would rend our family, the plague that would strike, or the throne that would come to me at such a grievous cost? And so, I invite you to journey with me through the triumphs and tribulations of my brief existence. In Part 2, you will learn of my path to the imperial throne, a journey paved with both the brilliance and blood of my family. But for now, linger here with me at the beginning, where the light of youth first touched the shadows of destiny. I never sought the throne, it sought me. When my father, Decius, became emperor in 249 CE, the weight of his ambitions cast a long shadow over my brother Herennius and me. Rome was in crisis, plagued by rebellion and the ever-looming threat of the Goths. My father, a man of iron principles, believed that strength and tradition would restore the empire's glory. I admired him deeply, but I often wondered if his resolve blinded him to the humanity behind the title of emperor. My early years were spent in preparation, though never with the expectation that I would rule. Herennius, my elder brother, was the star-handsome, commanding, destined for the purple. I accompanied him to military councils and witnessed firsthand the brutal calculus of empire. While he thrived in the company of soldiers, I lingered on the fringes, absorbing the tension, the unspoken fears, and the distant cries of a restless empire. Still, my father insisted that I play my part. "The empire is not a burden borne alone," he reminded me. Fate, however, was unsparing. In 251 CE, my father and brother met their end in the disastrous Battle of Abritus, where Roman might faltered against the Goths. The news reached me like a thunderclap. I was no longer the forgotten son. In a single stroke, I became the hope of the empire. My mother, Herennia et Drusilla, shielded me from the immediate chaos, but I saw the fear in her eyes. The Senate declared Trebonianus Gallus as emperor, but he sought to stabilise his claim by naming me co-emperor, a gesture of unity or perhaps control. At just 21, I was thrust into the maelstrom of politics and power. My reign began with uncertainty, an echo of the instability my father had sought to quell. The empire was fracturing, and the spectre of plague darkened every corner of Rome. I tried to find my footing amidst these crises, to rise to the expectations my lineage demanded. Yet, I could not shake the feeling that I was merely a pawn in a game orchestrated by older, shrewder men. I stood on the cusp of adulthood, wearing the purple that had stained my family with both glory and grief. My youth was a weapon for some, a weakness for others. Could I wield it for Rome's salvation? Or would I be consumed, as so many before me, by the insatiable hunger of the empire? Part 3 awaits, where my reign must stand in comparison to that of my father's. What did I change? What did I preserve? The answers may surprise you, as they surprised me. But know this: no man ascends to the throne unchanged, and no emperor escapes it unscathed. To rule is to walk a razor's edge, balanced precariously between hope and despair. My reign, though brief, bore the weight of contrasts between my father's iron-fisted resolve and my yearning for something gentler, between the unyielding march of Rome's past and the fragile potential of its future. My father, Decius, was a man of rigid principles, determined to restore the ancient virtues of Rome. He sought to strengthen the empire through unity, but his policies often deepened divisions. His persecution of Christians, an effort to enforce loyalty to Roman gods, became a stain on his legacy. I witnessed the cost of his decisions, not only in the anguish of the people, but in the weariness etched into his face. He ruled as if Rome were an unbending machine, but I saw Rome as a living, breathing entity capable of compassion as well as strength. When I ascended as co-emperor with Trebonianus Gallus in 251 AD, I was determined to chart a different course. The empire was crumbling under the weight of war and plague, and the people needed a leader who could inspire hope, not fear. I advocated for policies that showed mercy rather than punishment, and I worked to rebuild trust between the rulers and the ruled. Gallus, pragmatic and experienced, often dismissed my idealism as the folly of youth, but I saw in his eyes a flicker of admiration. I was young, yes, but I understood that Rome could not endure on brute force alone. Yet my reign was not without its trials. The plague, known as the Cyprian Plague, ravaged the empire, leaving death and despair in its wake. How does one govern when even the air conspires against you? I stood in the shadow of my father's martial legacy, and I struggled to find my voice amidst the chaos. The Senate and the people often compared me to him, some favourably, others harshly. I was no Decius, and I did not wish to be. My reign was marked by compromise and compassion, a reflection of what I believed Rome needed, even if it was not what Rome wanted. What had changed? Everything, and yet nothing. The empire continued to teeter on the edge, as it had during my father's rule. The difference lay in the tone, the approach. Decius had sought to enforce Rome's traditions. I sought to adapt them. His reign was one of rigid ideals, mine an experiment in empathy. But time, as it often does, was not on my side. In Part 4, I will recount the end how death claimed me, not in battle like my father, but through the quiet, insidious hand of the plague. My reign, though brief, was one of survival, not conquest. And yet, perhaps in those fleeting moments, I glimpsed a vision of Rome's future, a vision that I would never see come to fruition. Death came not as a warrior, but as a whisper. In the autumn of 251 CA, the Cyprian Plague that ravaged Rome found its way to me. My body, so accustomed to the rigours of youth, betrayed me. Fever gripped me and strength fled my limbs. The irony was not lost on me. My father had died on the battlefield, a soldier's death, while I lay in a chamber shrouded in incense, fighting an enemy no sword could strike. It seemed the gods had a cruel sense of humour. The plague was relentless, indifferent to title or status. I had watched it decimate soldiers and citizens alike, rendering our armies weak and our cities desperate. I issued decrees to ensure the dead were buried with dignity and that food was distributed to those in need. But my voice, once steady, began to falter, and my strength waned as the illness gripped me. Gallus came to my bedside. I could see the pity in his eyes, though he masked it with words of encouragement. "Rome endures," he told me, "because we endure." But I knew the truth. My time was slipping away, and with it, the fragile unity I had tried to nurture. My mother, Herenia Etrusilla, stayed close, her presence a balm in my final days. She had already lost a husband and a son. Now she faced the loss of another. As death approached, I thought not of my titles, but of the faces of those I loved. My father's resolute gaze, my brother's laughter, my mother's comforting smile. And I thought of Rome, that eternal city, so vast and enduring, yet so fragile. Had I done enough? Had I mattered? These questions haunted me as the fever burned away what little strength I had left. And then, one day, it ended. I, Hostilian, co-emperor of Rome, passed into the annals of history, or so I thought. In death, as in life, I was overshadowed by those who came before and after me. My reign was a whisper amidst the roars of Rome's tumultuous history. But even whispers, I would like to believe, have meaning. Part V will reveal the legacy I left behind, brief though it was. Did my reign, short-lived and fraught with crisis, leave any mark on the empire I loved? Or did the tides of history wash away all traces of my efforts? Journey with me further, and together we shall find the answer. Legacy is a fickle thing. Some emperors carve their names into the stone of history with blood and conquest. Others are erased, their stories fading like echoes in a vast amphitheatre. I often wonder where I, Hostilian, fit within this grand narrative. I ruled for mere months, a brief flicker in Rome's tumultuous 3rd century. Yet, in that short time, I tried to steer the empire towards stability, to temper the brutality of the past with the promise of compassion. My death may have seemed to mark the end of my influence, but in truth, my legacy lay not in grand achievements, but in the seeds I planted, seeds of hope, fleeting though they were. The Senate and the people of Rome remembered me, albeit faintly, as the young emperor who sought unity in an age of division. While my father's reign was remembered for its severity and my co-emperor Gallus's for its pragmatism, mine was marked by an idealism that, though fragile, resonated with some. The policies I advocated for mercy toward the Christian population, aid for the plague-stricken may have been overshadowed by larger crises, but they reflected a belief in Rome's capacity for renewal. Historians often dismiss me as a victim of circumstance, a casualty of plague rather than politics. But I contend that even the shortest reigns hold meaning. My efforts to prioritise the welfare of Rome's citizens, even amid my own suffering, spoke to the kind of leadership I aspired to embody. Perhaps my true legacy lies not in what I accomplished, but in the questions my reign posed. What kind of Rome do we want? What kind of leaders should we follow? And what of the memory of Hostilian, the man, the son, the brother? I hope that history remembers me not only as an emperor, but as a human being who, however briefly, tried to bridge the chasm between power and compassion. In Part 6, I will reflect on whether my reign, short-lived and overshadowed, was worth it. Together, we will explore the broader truths my life reveals about power, equality, and the ideals that shape both empires and individuals. For though my story ends, its lessons endure. Let us carry them forward. As I lie here, beyond the reach of time, I can't help but wonder, was it worth it? Was the fleeting reign of Hostilian, Emperor of Rome, for but a moment, a worthy endeavour? Was my pursuit of compassion, my desire for a Rome built on mercy and unity, a dream too far-reaching, too fragile for the realities of empire? These are questions I carry with me beyond death, and perhaps they will carry on in your minds as well. The truth is, my reign was never destined for greatness. I was not a conqueror like Trajan or a reformer like Diocletian. My time was short and my challenges immense. Yet, in hindsight, I find solace in knowing that I did not choose tyranny, nor did I seek to crush the very people I was meant to serve. In a time of rampant violence and uncertainty, I strove to steer Rome toward a better way, not through force, but through understanding, not through fear, but through compassion. It was not enough to save me, to save the empire, but it was, I believe, enough to show that Rome could have been something more. Rome, in its glory, was a city of paradoxes, vast yet fragile, mighty yet vulnerable. The empire needed strength, yes, but it also needed justice. It needed leaders who cared not just for their legions, but for the lives of those they ruled. I was not perfect, but I dared to dream of a Rome where all could thrive. Not just the elite, where the rights of the people were valued, not trampled. I often think of the values I held dear: equality, freedom, liberty. These ideals that seem so distant in the grand sweep of history. And yet, they are not so distant, are they? These principles echo across the centuries, in every revolution, every cry for justice. They are not the fantasies of a naive emperor, but the birthrights of all people. Perhaps my reign was not about what I achieved during my short life, but about the ideals I attempted to plant for those who would come after me. As you reflect on my life and reign, ask yourself, how much has the world changed since my time? Are the struggles I faced, plague, division, and the fight for mercy over power, so different from the struggles of today? I may have been a footnote in the annals of history, but my questions are yours to answer. And now, as we part ways, let me offer you something more. If you wish to understand my world, if you wish to walk the paths I trod, you may journey to the ruins of ancient Rome. Stand where I once stood in the Senate, feel the pulse of the empire in its mighty walls, and ponder the same questions that haunted me. Rome, with its vast histories and countless legacies, remains a place where the past lives on, where the lessons of the ancient world are still there, waiting to be discovered. For those who seek a deeper connection to the past, there is no better way than through the study of ancient coins. These small artifacts, minted in the likeness of emperors and gods, carry with them stories of power, struggle, and hope. Collecting coins from the era of my reign can give you a tangible link to the world I inhabited, a world that, though distant, still speaks to us across the ages. Thank you for joining me on this journey through my life. The Renaissance Spirit, the channel where this story has unfolded, stands as a beacon for those who seek knowledge, who yearn for a just and compassionate world. We explore history, culture, politics, and the sciences, from the ancient empires to the modern day. We are all part of this grand story, this human endeavour to understand, to grow, and to be better stewards of the world. If you have enjoyed this journey, I invite you to explore the many other stories on the Renaissance Spirit channel, a place where history is not just remembered, but lived and understood. Please subscribe, share, and let us know what you've learned and what you would like to see in the future. The world is full of untold stories, and together we can uncover them. Vive Renaissance Spiritus! History has not died, only our understanding of it